Today we're going to give you the full tour of our 1955 Divco Lightning. I'm Justin.
And I am Aaron.
And this is Husman Bros. And before we go too much further, please subscribe for more great content like this below. So you guys really liked our short introduction, reintroduction I suppose, of our Divco milk truck. And this is our 1955 powered by a Ford Lightning.
No, not just that electric crap. This is the first generation Lightning 351 Windsor V8.
Absolutely, and we've done a bunch of stuff to it. Let's give a tour of it and tell you why we have this as our work truck.
If we're gonna do a tour, let's start with the thing everybody wants to see, the engine.
Full-on V8. So this is a 351 Windsor. What we just did to this is we actually replaced the original intake with a new Edelbrock EFI system in order to make this thing finally run. A lot of people ask us, why do we have such a weird old Frankenstein truck for our work truck?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question. We often ask ourselves the same thing, especially when we get the bill from Iron Horse.
Or when we're on the side of the road.
Or when we're broken down on the side of the road. So the reason, couple reasons we have this truck. One of the first hot rod shows we went to, we decided we wanted a classic car to go to shows in.
Yeah, because we were in your piece of crap, which technically would be a classic today.
I think it was a classic at the time, actually. We were pretty close
but it really
to
wasn't any good. It wasn't really drawing any attention. So we needed something that we could pack up all of our stuff in and go to these hot rod shows and travel with a little bit of style. I didn't want to get a Yukon or Expedition or something.
And here's the challenge. We thought package delivery, Chevy or Ford, any number of trucks, but we realized that those are cars that people already build into hot rods. And the problem was we weren't going to be able to spend enough money as a hobbyist to sit next to that beautiful 55 package delivery.
We have a lot of respect for the craft of building a hot rod. And there are some beautiful cars out there that people spend a ton of money and, more importantly, a ton of time building. And we knew we were not going to be able to compete with that. So we needed something that was going to be a little bit different, something that was going to draw attention even if it wasn't perfect. And so Divco is what we settled on.
One of the reasons we chose a Divco is because it's almost always the tallest thing at the show, and therefore they never miss our logo. Now, what does Divco stand for?
Detroit Industrial Vehicle Company.
Yes, and these trucks originally came with a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder maybe, because they were route trucks. The floor of this truck was originally down there.
Yep, but we needed to raise it up here a little bit. Now, this is channeled, so it sits on the frame really nicely. It has a great stance on it. But originally, this is where the floor was, and this is what was sitting on the frame. So this thing would sit significantly higher. These seats are actually the original Divco seats. Repurposed them. Most Divcos did not have 2 seats because you only had 1 delivery driver, so you only needed 1 seat. These would be the fancy Divco seats because most of the seats looked like milk crates with the front torn off. Now, the seat would have a post that goes all the way down to the floor, and this seat would actually swivel out of the way. And it did that because the delivery drivers would jump in and out of the truck to go make their milk deliveries.
These were originally stand and drive trucks with a hand throttle. Now we used the original pedal down there, which you would just basically turn the truck on and off with, but they had hand throttles and they would fold back the seats. Now, we have met in our travels a number of people that drove these trucks for a living, and in the dairies that had fleets of these trucks, the drivers would fight to get the newest truck because it had the stickiest hand throttle, and with enough practice, they said they could set the throttle to half, maybe 1 mile an hour, and let it creep along the street while they ran back and forth delivering milk, just adjusting every couple houses. Because remember, in the 50s, cars didn't really park on the street as much. So while we're here in the interior, let's talk about some things we've done here. Obviously, they didn't start out like this. So we put in some air conditioning. We've got 2 fans powered by switches in the dash. Our other dash switches were installed recently in our latest update. We have a couple different switches here. We have our headlight, okay? This truck, as you see, has no rear view mirror. The side view mirrors are mostly covered up by the doors, so we went ahead and installed cameras for both front and rear. Accessory power for when we're at a car show and we want to hang out and charge our phones. Here we have our LED lights, which don't seem to be working in both of them, but we'll get that fixed. This is interior lights, so that while we're loading and unloading, and then this one is our fan on the other side. This whole dash was built by our friends over at Iron Horse. The Dakota Digital is a great addition. The original steering wheel was very big. In fact, if you look in some of our other videos, you'll see it hanging on the wall of the garage. We have a glove box here. The doghouse was all built for this truck. We have had this truck all over the place, and we have driven the hell out of this. I think that we've put 30 or 40,000 miles on it since we built it. Originally, it didn't look as nice as this on the inside. We didn't have cup holders, except we were at a car show, and we found an old school boat cup holder that you screw into the side of your boat that swivels, and I just screwed it into one of these original bolts. At this car show was George Barris, and when he walked by, he gave approval to the build. He said it was a cool idea for the cup holder. That's kind of neat. So now the interior's been all redone, and Aaron is sitting on one of my favorite new additions.
Yes, you know, there are people throughout the years who have said they wish they could ride along with us in the Divco, but it only ever had the 2 seats. So when we put it in for a little bit of modification, we figured, you know what, let's turn this thing into a family van. So we added these 2 seats back here. We've got boat jump seats that are bolted in, and I would just say be careful what you wish for, because it is a heck of a ride on these things. So if you come back here in the back, you can see a lot of damage on the walls. This is by no means a show truck anymore, except that it goes to shows. We use this thing. We pile all of our stuff in here, our tent, our tables. This is a work truck, and I just got to say, one of the coolest around. The wheels on this truck are custom. We made them look like they were really deep, but they're not actually that big of a wheel. But we made sure to build this truck with tubbed fenders, so if we want to go big, we can go huge. So that's about it on the inside. Let's hop outside and see a few more things. Now let me tell you a story about how full we can pack this thing and how the government helped us unpack it one time. So we were coming back from a Good Guys show in California, and if you've never driven down I-10, then you don't know that you have to stop at Border Patrol stops even if you never cross over the border. Well, we stopped in one, I guess, somewhere around El Paso, and when you travel in this thing, you have to actually padlock yourself in if you want to keep the doors closed. So there's a padlock on the outside of the driver's side and the inside of the passenger side. So as we pull up to the Border Patrol, the guy comes up to my door and he says, "Open up." And I said, "I can't. I'm padlocked in. You got to go to the other side." So he did.
I think that made him mad, though.
I think it did. He wasn't happy about that. So he came over here, gave us a song and dance about how there was radiation that he sensed in the truck with the beeper that was on his belt, told us to pull over to the side, and here they brought out the dogs to jump in the truck, sniff all around. We weren't carrying anything, so the dogs had nothing to find except a little fun adventure inside. Right. But it certainly made for an interesting experience, and I'm sure the craziest vehicle they've ever seen come through the Border Patrol.
And my only question, really, is if we were going to smuggle, why would we choose an 8-foot-tall clown car to do it in? Now, while we've had our adventures, so has this truck. This is registered as a Divco Lightning in Texas. Texas allows you to kind of do a lot of stuff with titles. And this truck is originally in 1949, I think, based on the size of the window and a couple other clues. But most of these trucks are rotted away. And so when we got this truck, it had already had the repair along the side here. But these trucks, and especially from this era, pre-50s, were cooled by ice and insulated by horsehair. So I think you can imagine how many of these trucks rotted away in the end. And so the fact that we only have this rust repair is pretty amazing. The rest of the truck was pretty solid when we got it. I think it was probably either a dry cleaning or pie truck when it was in service.
So this truck would have been used for a lot of different things. Divco as a company was around from the early 1900s well into the 80s. They started with bread trucks. You may remember some Helms delivery trucks that were just basically a box on wheels.
Right.
And they look like a box on wheels. Then they went to the second generation, this Divco right here. And this front end of this truck is the second longest continuously running body style for a manufacturer, second only to the Volkswagen Beetle. So they made this body style for 50 years. The front end. After you get past the doors, that's where things started to change. In this generation, they had a lot of style to them. You can see the curve of the roof here, and that looks really cool as a profile. And also these great 50s fenders. These are iconic style 50s fenders right here. So much so the first car show that we went to, as we were pulling in, a guy says, "Hey, man, what kind of fenders are those?" Well, he said, "They're Divco fenders." Because they look great. After this, they changed and had a lot less style. They were more boxy. on the back end, and the fenders were very square and industrial looking.
We've met a couple people with trucks like this, and they're all over the map. Some of them are way nicer than this one, and some of them are just really, really rough, because it's fun to have something that no one else has, because no one can sit next to you and say, well, it's not as nice as that one, because most shows we've been to, there's only ever been one of these.
Now, this may not look like the best road trip vehicle ever, but you'd be wrong. This is a fantastic road trip vehicle. It's almost like sitting at your kitchen table while going on a road trip.
Right.
The creature comforts are not there, but you have a great windshield to look out, and you have to drive with the doors open. If you don't drive this thing with the doors open, you're gonna blow around like a ship at sea. So we always drive with the doors open anymore, and we get a nice, great view of great scenery driving through the US. We've put about 40,000 miles on this truck since we got it.
I'm so glad to have it back. I'm so excited. It's been a couple years of in and out of dry dock for this thing. All that's left is the paint job, which I think we're going to wait on because they keep getting more expensive. Look for this at local car shows. If you see us in it, come up and say hello. I love this truck. I love my Porsches, but I think I love this more than any other car I've ever had. It's taken us quite a ways.
There's no car that we've got that's as unique as this.
No way. It is fun to look at, but I know you guys want to hear what it sounds like. Let's hop in it. Let's take it for a spin, get some moving video, and we'll see you again shortly.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're here inside the Divco now, and I'm sure that you can hear it. I've got the fans on. I'll turn it off to make it easier for you, but it's going to make it hotter for me. So this is not a comfortable car. It is fast, and it is loud, and it is basically, or until recently, it was more or less just an engine and 2 seats, which is what a hot rod should be.
Now it's an engine and 4 seats.
That's an engine and 4 seats, and it's got a radio and some other stuff in it. It has a little more creature comforts than it used to, in that it's got cargo. I'm very glad to have it back. It runs like a top with this new Edelbrock system in it. Now, one of the things we did last time is that I like to make an entrance. It's not enough that it's 8 feet tall. So sometimes, actually all the times, I like my cars loud. So cover your ears if you're sensitive, or turn down the volume if you got headphones on. We put electric cutouts in this truck. I'm gonna stand on it here in a second. It's gonna get real loud. Nothing like that sound. So it actually drives pretty well, as you can see. It's, I won't say comfortable, but it is a much easier drive. I gotta give a big shout out to Tim and the folks at Iron Horse. We have had this in the shop a couple times over the past few years with them, and they've done suspension rebuild, we've done exhaust and a lot of other things. Watch our other videos for the full list, but they have done a fantastic job on making this an actually drivable truck. Now, to give you the full benefit of the sound of the Fury, I'm going to do some passes so that you can hear us as we go by.
All right, I'm hopping out because he's just going to do some passes by so you can hear this thing and hear how it runs, and you really hear this great sound. So, and you can see it go away. It's a great looking truck. It's been a lot of fun. It gets a ton of attention. Anywhere we go, it's like we are in a parade. I mean, there's always people pulling up next to us. Love it when we're on the highway and you got the big trucks that are coming up next to us. They're reaching out, giving us a big thumbs up as they're passing us and blowing us around like crazy. So we can't wait for them to get past us. We appreciate the enthusiasm, but it's a lot of work to keep that truck on the road when you got a big truck passing you. But we put a lot of highway miles on that thing and had a lot of adventures. Probably one of the craziest adventures is when we led a police officer on about an 8-mile chase as we were coming through the plains in the middle of nowhere, just a little 2-lane road. And when you're driving this thing, the doors are open, we got the radio blaring, the engine is right there, it's so loud, you really can't hear anything. So we're driving along and we're not passing people for miles and miles. This is 30, 40 miles between towns. We get to a town, the road opens up by an extra lane, and here comes this officer with his lights on and his sirens going, and Justin leans out the door and he goes, "Man, pull over! This cop wants to take pictures with us!" So we pull over. The cop's getting out of his car, hand on his gun, telling us that we need to get out of the car. Uh-oh, I hear something. Here it comes. I know the neighbors love seeing that. But this cop comes up to the side and he's got his hand on his gun, tells us to get out, put our hands up, and asks us why are we running from him? And I said, I'm not running. I swear to God, I am not running from you. Well, he comes up and he said, what do you mean you're not running? I've been following you for 8 miles. You didn't hear my sirens? You didn't see my lights? Jeez. Here he comes. You can see this thing really move. That's why we didn't hear the sirens or we didn't see the lights. It's got these tiny little windows in the back, and this is before our rear view camera, so we couldn't see behind us very much at all. And I wasn't really that concerned because I figured I was going about 75, 80 miles an hour, and if somebody wanted to pass, they would. Well, he didn't like that. Took my license, checked us out, confirmed that we didn't have any warrants, and he came back and let us off with a warning. And he said, you know, you really need to put some better mirrors on this so you can see emergency vehicles behind you. You need to be able to hear what's going on behind you. And I said, officer, you know, that's totally fair. But also, to be fair, you were following a milk truck for 8 miles and you couldn't manage to get around it. So I'm not sure how much I really need to be able to pull over for you. He thought I was funny enough and he let me on our way, but it was a funny experience for us nonetheless. So I don't really have any more to that story, but I've been waiting for a few minutes. I don't know what happened to Justin, so I'm gonna wait here a little while longer and see if he comes back to pick me up or if he's already been picked up by the cops. Who knows? All right, Justin finally came back, so I guess the cops didn't get him. We'll hop in and get back.
All right, we're gonna head back to the garage now that we've screwed around here. Hey, Aaron, how is the ride back then?
I would say it is bumpy and non-desirable. I'm glad I'm going to always ride in the front seat. But at least if someone wants to ride along, we got spots for them.
Now, one of the nice things about those seats is that Tim actually did make them removable. We can actually unclip them on the bottom and take them out so we have more room, or if we don't want to really give any rides that day. So now you've seen it, and the internet's known for people telling other people how they should have done it. Tell us what we should have done right, or let us know what we should do next.
I tell you the other thing about these seats, it's a core workout just to be able to keep yourself upright. There's no arms on these, so it's really like sitting on a stool back here.
Right.
When you brake, I move forward. When you hit the gas, I go backwards.
This whole thing's kind of like a portable gym. It's a sauna. It's a core workout. All right. So now Aaron wants to show you one more thing before we wrap up the video. This is a thing he likes to do. I'm not the biggest fan, but he's going to show you what it looks like to stand and drive this thing. I'll let him do that. Stand aside. You know, one thing I do know, we have really good insurance for if he crashes it. We do insurance. That's not just for show. That is what we do. So if you see us at a car show, come up and say hello. See if we can help you out with your insurance. Thanks to our sponsors of Phoenix. Yeah. So we'll drop a link down below for you guys if you'd like to quote from us. We absolutely do insurance for all the things that you've got. If you can break it or burn it down, we can insure it, and we'd love you to give us a chance. So check that out. Thank you.
There's one thing that's universal to all car enthusiasts. It's what we like to do with all cars, which is to drive them. But driving it where nobody can see you, who cares? It's like a tree that falls in the woods when nobody's around. You want to cruise, and you want people to see you cruising. And I don't care what you're driving and how you're cruising, nobody can cruise like this.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you see me at a car show and I've got the Divco, come up and say hello, and I'm happy to take you for a ride in it if you're up for it.
Yeah, make sure you leave some comments below. Tell us what you like about the Divco. Tell us when you want to see more about the Divco. And we have a thought that we should do some Divco versus the world. This thing is fast. I wonder what it could be. So we're thinking about racing it against some things. Let us know what you'd like to see this go up against.
And if you want to challenge us, we're listening. Come back. We'll talk to you next time.